I had spent months planning this trip. Every detail, every reservation, every itinerary perfect. It wasn't just a vacation. It was a dream come true for my parents, Nathan and Sophia. They had always fantasized about taking a luxurious getaway, but finances and life never allowed it. So, I made it happen. After years of working and saving, I finally had enough to give them the kind of experience they'd never forget. An all expenses paid cruise across Asia, first class cabins, fine dining, guided tours. I had planned everything to perfection. I even booked a ticket for myself, imagining the three of us relaxing on the deck, watching the sun dip below the horizon, making memories together. That morning, I arrived at the hotel where we were supposed to meet before heading to the port. My heart was pounding with excitement. I couldn't wait to see their faces when we finally set sail. But the moment I pulled up, something felt off. Nathan and Sophia stood outside, their suitcases neatly stacked beside them. But they weren't alone. Lily, my older sister, stood next to them, holding her designer luggage and chatting away like she owned the place. I frowned, stepping out of the car. What's going on? Sophia beamed at me like nothing was wrong. Oh, sweetheart. We didn't tell you? Lily's going instead of you. I blinked, certain I had misheard. What? Nathan nodded, crossing his arms like this was the most natural thing in the world. Yeah. We thought about it, and we realized Lily needed this more than you. Needed this? Lily, who hadn't worked a real job in years, who spent her time hopping from one boyfriend's penthouse to another. You already travel sometimes for work, Sophia added, patting my arm like I was a child who just didn't understand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing for Lily. I glanced at my dad, hoping for some kind of rational explanation. But all he said was, "It's already decided. No point in making a fuss. We need to head out soon." I felt my nails dig into my palm. My entire body tensed as I stared at the people I had bent over backward for. The people who didn't even hesitate to toss me aside like an afterthought. I could feel the heat of betrayal simmering under my skin, but I swallowed it down. "All right," I said quietly. "Let's go." I turned, got back into the driver's seat, and started the car. But they had no idea what was coming. Not yet. The car ride to the port was a surreal experience, one of those moments where you feel like you're watching your life unfold from the outside, like a bad movie you can't turn off. Lily sat in the back, humming to herself, scrolling through her phone like she had earned this trip. Occasionally, she'd break the silence with some ridiculous comment about how she couldn't wait to sip cocktails on the sun deck, or how she'd been so stressed lately and really needed this. Sophia, ever the doting mother, chuckled and nodded along. "You do, sweetheart. This will be so good for you." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Nathan sat beside me in the passenger seat, arms crossed, wearing that same satisfied smirk he always had when things were going his way. They had no idea what was coming. I forced my voice to stay level. "So, when exactly were you planning on telling me?" Sophia sighed like I was making a big deal out of nothing. "Honey, you shouldn't be upset. It's just that Lily deserves it more than me," I cut in, my knuckles white against the wheel. "Well, you know how hard things have been for her," she said gently, like I was supposed to feel bad for my sister. "Hard?" I let out a short laugh. "Lily hasn't worked in years." Lily scoffed from the back seat. "Wow, Emily. Jealous much?" I clenched my jaw. This wasn't jealousy. This was betrayal. I had spent months planning this trip, using my own money, picturing the joy on my parents' faces when they finally got the vacation they had always dreamed of. But instead of gratitude, instead of even a conversation, they had made a decision for me. Nathan sighed, as if he were the one being inconvenienced. "Enough of this. What's done is done. No point in dragging it out." And that was it. That was his final word. No apology, no remorse, just a smug certainty that I would do what I always did: shut up, take it, and drive them where they wanted to go. I inhaled deeply, forcing myself to stay calm. But as we neared the port, I felt a slow, quiet satisfaction creep in. They were so sure of themselves, so sure that I would just let this happen. But they had no idea. I pulled into the drop-off zone and parked the car. I turned to them, offering for the first time all morning a bright, genuine smile. "All right," I said, unlocking the doors. "You should get your bags." They stepped out, stretching, completely oblivious. I popped the trunk, watching as they pulled out their suitcases, still laughing, still convinced they had won. Then, as they walked toward the entrance, I casually pulled out my phone, opened the cruise lines app, and tapped cancel. Their first class tickets? Gone. They didn't know it yet. But they were about to find out. I didn't rush. I wanted them to experience every second of confusion before the realization hit. As I pulled away from the curb, I glanced at the rearview mirror, watching their excited figures disappear into the crowd. They were completely oblivious, just a happy little family, ready to embark on their luxurious cruise. Except, they weren't going anywhere. Not anymore. I barely made it out of the parking lot before my phone buzzed. First text, Sophia. "Sophia, honey, there's a problem with the tickets. The cruise line says they were canceled." I smirked. A second text, almost instantly after, Nathan. "Nathan, fix this now. I don't have time for your mistakes." There it was. The entitlement. The expectation that I would just clean up the mess, like I always did. I didn't respond. Not yet. I drove to a nearby coffee shop, took my time ordering an iced latte, found a table by the window, and watched the chaos unfold on my phone. A third text came through Lily. "Lily, what the hell, Emily?" Oh, now I had their attention. I sipped my drink, savoring the moment. Then, I responded. "Me, oh yeah. I canceled everything. Hope you enjoy your trip." Not even 2 seconds later, my phone exploded. "Sophia, what do you mean you canceled it?" "Nathan, get back here now and fix this." "Lily, are you freaking kidding me?" I chuckled, imagining the scene at the check-in counter. Sophia, all polite smiles at first, trying to reason with the staff. Nathan, standing stiff beside her, tapping at his phone, probably checking his credit card balance, realizing he didn't have enough to book new tickets on the spot. And Lily? Oh, she was definitely fuming, throwing a fit, completely unprepared for the idea that, for once in her life, something wasn't just being handed to her. I let them stew. It wasn't long before my phone rang. "Sophia." I let it ring. She called again. Then Nathan. Then Lily. I ignored every single one. The texts continued. "Nathan, this isn't funny. Call me back now." "Lily, Emily, you need to fix this. You can afford it. Just book another trip." That text almost made me laugh out loud. I could afford it? Like it was somehow my responsibility to make sure they still got their perfect little vacation? Like I hadn't already paid for everything, only to be tossed aside at the last minute? I took another sip of my latte and finally, after a long pause, typed a response. Me. "Oh, I absolutely can't afford it. But you know what? I don't think I will." Silence. For the first time, there was no immediate reply. Maybe they had finally realized they weren't in control this time, and it felt damn good. I leaned back in my chair, stretching out my legs. The sun was warm against my skin, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Then my phone vibrated again. One last text from Sophia. "Sophia, I can't believe you would do this to your own family. After everything we've done for you?" I stared at the message, letting the words settle in. Everything they had done for me. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or scream, but instead, I simply blocked her number, blocked Nathan, blocked Lily. And then, I ordered another latte, because for the first time in my life, I didn't have to deal with their entitled, selfish demands. They were stuck, and I didn't have to lift a damn finger to help them. I drove home with a calm I hadn't felt in years. No more calls, no more texts, No more being treated like an ATM with a heartbeat, just silence. I walked into my apartment, tossed my keys onto the counter, and collapsed onto the couch. My phone was face down on the table, but I knew the moment I flipped it over, there would be more messages, waiting. And sure enough, when I finally picked it up, the notifications were relentless. Nathan, you're embarrassing us. Fix this. Sophia, we are stranded. What do you expect us to do now? Lily, are you seriously going to let this happen? You are such a child, Emily. I exhaled slowly, a smirk tugging at my lips. They were panicking, scrambling, and for once, I wasn't the one rushing to save them. I let them sit in their misery for a while before I responded. Me, you made a decision as a family, without me. So now, you get to deal with it as a family, without me. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. I pictured them, standing in the cruise terminal, desperately refreshing their phones, trying to figure out a way to manipulate me into fixing their problem. Another text from Sophia, sweetheart, please. This is all just a big misunderstanding. Just rebook the tickets, and we'll talk when we get back. I almost laughed. She really thought I was just going to roll over and make everything right again. Like I hadn't just been kicked off my own trip. Like I was the one being unreasonable. I typed back 2 simple words, not happening. And then, for good measure, I blocked her. Blocked Nathan. Blocked Lily. Just like that, the noise stopped. I exhaled deeply, sinking further into the couch, feeling an unfamiliar but welcome weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in my life, I had control, and I wasn't about to give it back. The aftermath begins. I didn't hear from them again for hours. I assumed they were still at the cruise terminal, desperately trying to talk their way onto the ship, but there was nothing they could do. The tickets were non-refundable. They didn't have the money to book new ones on the spot. They were stuck, and the best part? That cruise was meant to be one way. I had planned a surprise return trip for all of us, first-class flights back home after a full week of luxury. But now, that return flight didn't exist. They had expected me to pay for their return journey after a free week in paradise. Well, joke's on them. I grabbed my laptop, pulled up Facebook, and started typing, wishing my parents and Lily an amazing trip. I was supposed to go with them, but at the last minute, they decided Lily should take my spot instead. Hope they enjoy the non-refundable, one-way tickets I paid for. Short, sweet, devastating. I hit post, and within minutes the comments started rolling in. Cousin Ethan, wait, what? They ditched you last minute? Family friend, that's unbelievable. I'm so sorry, Emily. Old coworker, damn. They really thought you'd let them get away with this? I could barely keep up with the notifications. The post was spreading fast, and people weren't holding back. And then the cherry on top. A friend sent me a screenshot from Sophia's Facebook page. She had posted one of her usual bragging vacation updates. Finally off on a well-deserved trip. So grateful for this family time. But the comments? They were brutal. Aunt Lisa, wait. Didn't Emily pay for this? Uncle Mike, didn't you literally ditch your own daughter for Lily? A random acquaintance, damn. That's cold. Her post disappeared within minutes. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my drink. Checkmate. The knock at the door, it was too late for visitors. But I already knew who it was. I set my drink down, took a slow, steady breath, and walked to the door. Through the peephole, I saw a familiar face. Nathan. He stood there, alone, hands shoved into his pockets, jaw tight, the same way he always looked when he was about to fix a problem he had created. I considered ignoring it, letting him stand out there, stewing in the same helplessness he had made me feel for years. But no, I wanted to hear what he had to say, so I unlocked the door and pulled it open. Nathan didn't even wait for an invitation. He pushed past me, stepping into my apartment like he owned the place. I shut the door behind him, arms crossed. Didn't expect to see you here. Thought you'd be halfway to paradise by now. His eyes were cold. We need to talk. I leaned against the counter, raising an eyebrow. Do we? Nathan exhaled sharply, like he was holding back from yelling. Enough games. You need to fix this. I laughed. Oh, and what exactly do you think I'm going to fix? He clenched his jaw. You humiliated your mother. I tilted my head. Oh, I humiliated her? Or did she humiliate herself by pulling that stunt at the port? Silence. Which meant I was right. You don't understand the position you've put us in, he finally said. I scoffed. Oh no. Did my little Facebook post ruin her perfect image? Did people finally see through the bullshit? Nathan took a step closer, lowering his voice. You're going to delete it. I smirked. No, I don't think I will. His nostrils flared. This isn't funny. No, I agreed. It's hilarious. His hands twitched like he wanted to slam something. Instead, he took a deep breath and switched tactics. His voice softened, slipping into his manipulation mode. Listen, he started. I get that you're upset. Maybe we handled things badly. But this? He gestured vaguely. This isn't the way. We're family. We don't turn on each other like this. I just stared at him. Funny, I said. I could have sworn that's exactly what you did to me this morning. His face darkened. We're leaving in a few hours, he said, his voice low. You need to fix this. Now. I smiled. I think we're done here. I walked to the door and pulled it open. For a moment, Nathan just stood there, silent, seething. Then finally he walked out. I shut the door behind him and locked it. And as I turned back to my empty apartment, I felt something new. Relief. For the first time, I wasn't the one being used. For the first time, I wasn't going to clean up their mess. For the first time, I was free. I stood by the door for a long time, just listening. No knocking, no shouting, no last-minute attempt from Nathan to force me back into their control. Nothing. It was strange, this quiet. A different kind of silence than the one I had always known growing up, the silence of walking on eggshells, of knowing that if I upset them, they would shut me out until they needed something again. But this silence was mine, and I had never realized how much I needed it. I walked back to my couch, grabbed my phone, and scrolled through the flood of notifications. My post was still blowing up, and people were not holding back. Aunt Lisa, they really thought they'd get away with that? Unreal. Cousin Ethan, I knew they played favorites, but this? Wow. Old coworker, good for you. Don't let them manipulate you. I hadn't expected this level of support. For years, I had been made to feel like I was the unreasonable one whenever I pushed back against them, like I was selfish for not wanting to be treated like a walking wallet. But now, the truth was out there, and they hated it. Burning bridges never felt so good. I ignored my phone for the rest of the night. Let them stew in their own mess. The next morning, when I finally checked it, I found a new text waiting. Not from Nathan, not from Lily, from Sophia. Sophia, we've been talking, your father and I, and we know we messed up. I stared at the message. My heart beat steady. Sophia, we shouldn't have treated you like this. It was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive us, but we want to make things right. Right. That was rich, coming from them. I could almost hear her voice in my head, gentle, pleading, trying to sound remorseful, trying to say all the right things to make me feel guilty. But I didn't. Not even a little. I typed back, my fingers light against the screen. Me, I'm glad you're finally seeing it, but I'm not coming back. I've been doing just fine without you, and I'm not going to let you drag me into your drama again. There was a long pause. Then, Sophia, you'll be sorry when we get back. And there it was. The real her. No more fake remorse. No more pretending she actually cared about making things right. Just anger. Because she realized she had lost control over me. I stared at the message. Let it sit for a few seconds, just long enough to let it sink in before blocking her. And just like that, it was over. A future without them. I spent the rest of the day with cousin Ethan. We met up for lunch, and for the first time in forever, I had a real conversation with someone who actually cared about me. We talked about everything: our childhoods, our families, the way I had spent years bending over backward for people who only saw me as useful when I had something to offer. By the end of it, I realized something. I wasn't alone. For years, my parents and Lily had made me feel like I had no one else, like I needed to earn their love by constantly sacrificing my own happiness. But the truth? There were people in my life who actually valued me. People who didn't expect me to give, give, without ever receiving anything in return. And those were the people I was going to focus on from now on. One last message. A few days later, I got a text from an unknown number. Lily, you're an awful person, you know that? You ruined everything. Mom is still crying. Dad is furious. You just had to be dramatic, didn't you? I smiled. I typed back, not bothering to mask my satisfaction. Me, funny. I could have sworn you were the one who took my trip. Hope you enjoyed dealing with the consequences for once in your life. And then block. The final one. For the first time in my life, I had cut them out completely. No more guilt trips. No more last-minute favors. No more being used. Just me. And my life. And you know what? It felt damn good. Story 2. I don't even know where to start. I feel like my whole world has collapsed. And I'm just standing here in the wreckage, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. I never thought I'd be one of those guys, one of those poor bastards on Reddit, spilling their guts about how they got screwed over by the people they loved most. But here I am. I guess I should start from the beginning. My name's Alex. I'm 27, and up until a week ago, I thought I had a pretty great life. I was married to the love of my life, Emma, also 27. We met in college when we were both freshmen, and from the moment we went on our first date, we just clicked. Within weeks, we were inseparable, saying I love you like it was the most natural thing in the world. Emma was the one who pursued me, and I was glad she did. She was the kind of woman who lit up a room smart, funny, a little stubborn, but in a way that made her even more lovable. When Emma's dad passed away during our senior year, I was there for her every step of the way. He had pancreatic cancer, and it was brutal. I spent nights in the hospital with her so she wouldn't be alone, holding her while she cried, reassuring her that she'd get through it. After he passed, she told me she didn't know what she would have done without me. She called me her soulmate. I thought we were unbreakable. We got married 2 years after college, and for a long time, I really believed I had it all. A great wife, a good job, and a best friend who had been like a brother to me since third grade. Jake, 26. If there was anyone I thought I could trust in this world besides Emma, it was him. Jake was always the life of the party, the guy who could make anyone laugh, but he had his flaws. He had a reputation in our friend group, one of those guys who could never commit to a relationship, always jumping from one girl to the next. And when he did settle down, he still couldn't keep it in his pants. His late wife, Sarah, had been the only woman to really get him to settle, and even then, he cheated on her repeatedly. A year ago, tragedy struck. Sarah was killed in a car accident. She had been drinking that night, something she'd only ever done when she was upset. And why was she upset? Because she had caught Jake cheating. Again, losing her broke him. Completely shattered him. He moved back to our hometown, but he wasn't the same. He barely spoke to anyone. No one could get through to him. And since I knew what Emma had been through with her dad, I thought maybe she could help. I asked her to talk to him, to see if she could get him to open up. I thought I was doing the right thing. I never expected what came next. The beginning of the affair, Emma never liked Jake before this. She thought he was a complete asshole, always rolling her eyes at his antics. She even used to question why I was friends with someone so morally bankrupt. That was part of why I never saw this coming. But after Sarah's death, something changed. Emma started spending a lot of time with Jake. At first it made sense. I encouraged it. She was just being a good person, right? She would visit him daily, sit with him for hours, talk to him when he wouldn't talk to anyone else. She told me she just wanted to help. But then she started going over there when I wasn't around. She started going on hikes with him, watching movies at his place, getting lunch. They were spending so much time together, and I wasn't included in any of it. And that's when I started feeling uncomfortable. I brought it up to her one night, just casually, asking if maybe she was spending too much time with him. She got defensive, said I was overthinking it, that he was grieving and needed support. I backed off because, well, she wasn't wrong. But then things started really shifting. She was on her phone constantly, always hiding the screen when I walked into the room. She became distant cold even. We barely had sex anymore, and when we did, it felt off, like she was just going through the motions. One night, she came home late. I asked where she had been. She said she was at a friend's place, but when I asked to see the texts, she flipped out, called me possessive, told me I was acting paranoid. And then Jake, my best friend, had the audacity to look me in the eye and tell me nothing was going on, that I needed to trust my wife, that I was being ridiculous, I was being gaslit. I should have trusted my instincts, catching them in the act. It all came crashing down. The night, Emma told me she was going to her sister's for the weekend. She said she needed some space from me, that my accusations were driving her crazy. That didn't sit right with me. I called her sister a few hours after Emma left, just to check in. And you know what her sister said? She wasn't there yet. She had left at 3 p.m. Her sister's place was 4 hours away. It was 10 p.m. I knew. I just knew. Something in my gut told me where to go, so I got in my car and drove straight to Jake's place. And there it was, her car, parked a few feet away from his house. I sat there for a long time, staring at it, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight. I thought my knuckles would snap. I wanted to be wrong. I needed to be wrong, but I wasn't. I went around the back, knowing the door would be open. I walked in as quietly as I could. The second I stepped inside, I heard them. Upstairs. I thought I was going to throw up. With every step toward that bedroom, my chest got tighter. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. And then, through the crack in the door, I saw it. Jake, on top of my wife. I don't even remember pushing the door open. I just remember the way they both froze, how their eyes went wide with horror when they saw me standing there. For a second, the world just stopped. And then Emma started screaming. I turned and walked away. I don't know how I made it back to my car. I don't know how I didn't punch Jake's teeth in. I just remember Emma chasing after me, crying, begging me to listen, saying she could explain. Explain what? I drove away. I cried the whole way home. Now I'm here, crashing on my buddy's couch, unable to eat, unable to sleep, stuck in this never-ending loop of replaying that moment in my head. I don't know what to do. I don't even know who I am anymore. I haven't been home since that night. I can't. I've been crashing at my college buddy's place, but even here, I feel like a ghost. Nothing feels real. I wake up, and for a second, I forget just a second. Then it all comes rushing back, like a punch to the gut. My wife, my best friend, the look on their faces when I caught them. I barely eat. Sleep is a joke. My mind just keeps replaying it over and over again, like some sick movie I can't turn off. Emma has been blowing up my phone, calls, texts, emails, begging me to talk to her, telling me she can explain, that she never meant to hurt me. Jake, too. He had the balls to send me a message saying he was sorry, that he messed up, but that he didn't want to lose me as a friend. Are you kidding me? I haven't responded to either of them. My family knows now. I had to tell them something when I didn't show up for Sunday dinner, and once I started talking, it all came out. My mom cried. My dad just got quiet. My sister, though she was pissed. If she ever sees Emma again, I swear she might throw hands. Emma must have told her family too, because her mom texted me, apologizing for her daughter's behavior. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for the support, Miss S. Thompson, but your daughter ruined my life? I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm supposed to go to work, eat, function like a normal human being, But how? How the hell do you move on from something like this? Her excuse: a few days ago, I finally broke down and read one of Emma's emails. I don't know why. Maybe I was looking for an answer. Maybe I just needed to see her words. Big mistake. She wrote this long-ass email about how she never meant for this to happen. How she loves me, that I'm her soulmate, and that she hates herself for what she did. She said she never planned for things with Jake to go that far, but they connected emotionally, and it just happened. Bullshit. Then she admitted something that really sent me over the edge. She said it wasn't the first time. They'd been sleeping together for weeks before I caught them. I wanted to throw my phone at the wall. All that time she was lying to my face. All those nights she was coming home late, looking me in the eyes, telling me she loved me. The time she got angry when I asked what was going on. I was losing my mind, questioning myself, wondering if I was being paranoid when all along I was right. And now she wants to act like she's sorry? She said she had feelings for Jake, but not as strong as what she feels for me. That she doesn't love him. That she got caught up in the excitement, the thrill of something forbidden. That's what broke me the most. This wasn't about love. It wasn't even about Jake. It was about the thrill. She was willing to risk everything: our marriage, our life together, just for the rush of sneaking around. I don't even recognize this person. The Emma I knew would never do this. But I guess I didn't know her at all. The divorce decision, I talked to a lawyer. I didn't even think about it. I just did it. She was great, straightforward. Asked me if I wanted to file for divorce immediately or take some time. I told her to move forward. I don't care what Emma says. There's no coming back from this. She walked me through the finances, the joint accounts, the property. The good news: no kids, no messy custody battle. The bad news: splitting our savings account isn't as simple as I'd hoped. I make more money than Emma, and even though I put more into that account, legally, she's still entitled to half unless she agrees otherwise. That's gonna be fun. I haven't told Emma yet. She's still trying to get me to meet with her, to talk things out. But what's there to talk about? She made her choice. The confrontation: Emma must have found out I filed, because she showed up at my apartment. I was coming back from work when I saw her standing outside my door, holding the divorce papers. Her face was a mess, red, puffy eyes like she'd been crying for hours. For a second, just a second, I felt bad. But then I remembered why we were here. She rushed toward me, trying to hug me. I stepped back, and that's when she lost it. She started sobbing, begging me not to do this, saying we could fix it, that she'd do anything to make it right. I just stood there, staring at her, feeling nothing. I used to worship this woman. Now I don't even know who she is. I don't want to fix this, I finally said. She completely broke down, said she wasn't leaving until we talked. That I at least owed her a conversation. Fine. We went inside. She started throwing out desperate ideas: trial, separation, marriage counseling, even some insane suggestion that I could sleep with someone else to make things even. Like that would magically erase what she did. I let her talk. Then I asked her the only thing I really cared about. Why? She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, shaking her head. I don't know. I swear, I don't know. I was in too deep, and I didn't know how to stop. Bullshit. She knew. She made a choice every single time she went to him, instead of coming home to me. Then she dropped another bombshell. She told me she got pregnant, and she had a termination because she didn't know whose it was. I felt my stomach drop. My hands were shaking. All the air left my lungs. I could barely get the words out. You said it only started a week before I caught you. She just nodded. She lied about that too. I stood up. I couldn't look at her anymore. Get out. She tried to reach for me, but I stepped away. I was done. She left sobbing. I sat there for hours, staring at the wall, trying to process everything. I don't know what hurts more, the betrayal or the fact that I still love her, even after everything. But love isn't enough. It's over. It's been a little over a month since I told Emma to leave. I wish I could say things got easier after that, but they didn't. Not right away. I still felt like I was walking around in a daze, like I was living someone else's life. It's weird how you can be so sure of something, your marriage, your future, and then, in an instant, it's just gone. I went back to work, but my head wasn't in it. My boss was cool enough to give me some extra time off, but I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself forever. So I threw myself into it, working longer hours, trying to drown out everything else. Emma kept reaching out. More emails, more texts. At first I ignored them, but then she sent me a long letter, like handwritten. I didn't want to read it, but I did. She talked about therapy, about how she was finally facing her issues. She admitted she had always struggled with self-esteem, always compared herself to her older sister, and that even though I made her feel beautiful, she still felt like she needed validation from someone else. I don't know what she expected me to do with that information. I'm not her therapist. I'm not her savior. She made her choices, and I'm making mine. Finalizing the divorce, one moved forward with the divorce. She didn't fight me on much, which was surprising. She agreed to split the joint account, even though she could have taken more. I don't know if it was guilt or if she just wanted to end things as fast as I did. Signing those papers was strange. I thought I'd feel relieved, free. Instead, it just felt empty. 5 years of marriage, 8 years together. And now, legally, we were nothing to each other, just two people who used to share a life. She asked if we could stay in touch. I told her no. She cried, but she didn't argue. Maybe she finally understood that some things can't be fixed. Jake's pathetic attempt. Jake reached out too. He actually had the nerve to ask if we could talk. I didn't respond. Then he sent a long-ass text about how he messed up, how he wasn't in the right headspace after losing Sarah, how he never meant to hurt me. I read it. Then I blocked his number. I don't care what he has to say. I don't care what excuses he wants to throw at me. He's dead to me. A fresh start. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I packed up and left. Moved across the country. New city, new job, new apartment. I needed to start over somewhere where nothing reminded me of them. At first, I felt completely alone. No friends, no familiar faces. Just me in a tiny apartment, figuring out what my life looked like now. But I needed that. I needed to be just me for a while. And slowly, things started getting better. I started working out again, something I hadn't done much since college. I forced myself to go out, meet new people. I even went on a couple of dates, not serious, just casual. I wasn't ready for anything more, but it felt good to be around someone who didn't bring back painful memories. For the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Emma's collapse. Then I got a call from Emma's sister. Emma had a breakdown. Apparently, she spiraled hard after the divorce. Drinking, isolating herself, not taking care of herself. It got bad enough that she ended up overdosing. She survived, but she had to be hospitalized. When I heard, my stomach dropped. I don't know why. It's not my problem anymore. But part of me still cared. I went to visit her. I told myself I was just checking in, that I needed to see for myself that she was okay. She was asleep when I got there. She looked fragile, nothing like the woman I used to know. For a second, I almost reached out, almost brushed her hair back like I used to, but I didn't. I just stood there, staring at her, realizing that this was the last time I'd ever see her. Her family doesn't want me around. They blame me for how she fell apart. I don't argue. Let them think what they want. I know the truth. I walked out of that hospital knowing I was done. The final goodbye. It's been 6 months now. I don't think about Emma as much anymore. She's a memory, a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Jake? I don't even waste my time hating him. He's irrelevant. Am I over it? Not completely. Some nights, it still creeps up on me, the betrayal, the way they made me question everything. But it doesn't own me anymore. I've got my own life now, a new place, new people, and for the first time in a long time, I feel free.